Good morning, everyone. On this fine Monday morning, I thought I would give you a welcome to the second week and go over a couple of things for this week, as well as some comments on the things that you did last week. So, as your announcements will say, you will go to course content and click on the Module 1 folder. And then you'll scroll down to get to the week 2 tasks. Now, my suggestion to you is to get a good calendar. Read at the beginning of the week what's coming so that there are no surprises, and then build yourself a calendar off of that, okay? So list all of the things that you need to do and divide these things up. The first things that you are going to do this week will be to read chapter 7 and the included excerpt from The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. Now, I also want you to be familiar with a text-to-text approach, or the intertextual approach that your talks about, where you're basically looking at a type of comparison in order to find theme. And so there is a story in your, a poem in your book called Facing It, and I have provided a link for you to hear a reading of it as well, and they both have to do with Vietnam. And then there is a discussion forum post on that. Now you'll notice that as we go down our list, the things that are mentioned up here, now as we are getting ready to do our literary analysis essay, it's important for you to find theme. And so there's a video link on finding theme that I want you to watch, and then you read Dead Men's Path. And you can just look in your index for the page number on that. So if you scroll down, then you'll see that all of these attachments are in order of the way that you need to do them and their due dates. And so you have your the things that I carry: responsive writing, that is a discussion forum that will be due by Wednesday night, and also the Dead Men's Path quiz. All right, and there are details on each one of those about that in those links. Between there, you're going to find, though, that link of that video called Finding Theme that I told you about. And it's a really good video with some different kinds of ideas on how you can go about finding real meaning or interpretation of works, okay? One thing that I will say about last week's work is that some of you missed points on discussion forums because you didn't reply to at least 2 other people in those forums. So I want to make sure that you're doing that on every discussion forum. Every post that has a little thumbtack on it, like it's on a bulletin board, you need to make sure that you're replying to your peers in order to get full credit. That was stated early on in the class as well, okay? Now, all of our quizzes are timed. This one is only going to be accessible one time. We've done our experimenting last week with quizzes and having access to them twice. But now you want to make sure that you take your quizzes on a desktop if possible, something that has a hardwired internet connection if possible, because if your Wi-Fi blinks, then you're thrown out of the quiz and you can only access that quiz once. So make sure that you're all set up and ready to go. Don't take your quizzes on an iPad or an iPhone. Blackboard just simply isn't compatible enough for that at this point. Your second critical approach journal this week is going to be due on Friday, and you have the choice of either using The Things They Carried or Dead Men's Path. And you can use the historical approach. Now, again, no research on this. We haven't had an assignment for a research paper yet. I haven't gone over the parameters of researching and that kind of thing. So don't do any research on this. This would be use the historical approach if you already know something, maybe from your history classes about the Vietnam, or if you have seen other documentaries or films, that kind of thing, that give you a historical perspective. If you know the background, then choose the historical approach. Or if you know something about imperialism in Africa, then that would be something that you could discuss for Dead Man's Path as far as the historical approach goes. I know that we have someone in our class who could maybe give us some unique perspective on this, so I look forward to seeing your thoughts on that. Intertextual approach is the other possibility for this week's journal, and remember that that is a type of comparison, as I mentioned earlier in the video, that you would do. So you might find that there is a certain amount of emotional distance that happens through the things they carried, and you're seeing that also in the poem Facing It. And discuss how both of those things give you an idea about what the underlying meaning of this work is. Okay, because every journal, no matter which approach you use, critical analysis is all about interpreting the work and finding meaning or theme in it. So every journal you write has to make a comment on theme. Okay, now this week you are also going to be looking at a story called Everyday Use from Alice Walker, which gives us a new perspective on the persona. So what I would say about last week's work on your writings, some of you were very good about taking the historical context and the creation of character that you saw in Eveline, and you were able to speak from an authentic voice or persona if you are one of the people who wrote as Eveline. So I wanted you to notice that there are sometimes that we will adapt a voice or a persona for our writing based upon the needs of the prompt or the text, and some of you changed the tone or the voice based upon the audience. So whomever you were writing for was the crux in what made you write the way that you did. Okay, you adapted a certain attitude toward your subject, which is what tone is, because of who you were writing for, whom you were writing for. And so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that thinking about your audience, who you are writing for, and thinking about your persona or voice as you write a text is incredibly important. Most of the writing that we do in this class is going to be for this audience. In other words, your classmates and myself. And most of the time we have already read these stories, so we already know the summary. We already know what the story is about. So you don't need to summarize in your writing, because we've all read the story. What you have to do is focus on your perspective and your interpretation of the story, because that's something that we don't all share. Sometimes you have students who will look at the character of Eveline and go, oh, she was awful. She was weak. I didn't like that. She couldn't make a decision for herself, etc., right? While other people say, wow, I really admire her for sticking to her morals and values, that I think staying at home and caring for her father was what was most important, and fulfilling that promise to her mother, that's what was most important. So I think she's a very strong person. Now there's two opposite interpretations, but both are valid, depending upon the evidence that you pull from the text and how you support your idea, okay? So there is a literary analysis assignment sheet here for you, because I want you to start thinking about which one of these stories could I use to write a formalist approach in a formal essay. Now, in these journals, I've said, you know, it's fine to use first person. I think, I feel, it's my opinion, that kind of thing. That's fine for a journal. But now for this essay assignment, we are going to have to flip registers. We're going to have to think academically and be able to adapt the tone of our voices for each other now. So whatever story you choose from the readings assigned in class, you don't need to summarize because we've all read it. right? That was covered in the book. As you discuss your story, then you will, after that opening paragraph, just refer to the author as the author's last name in the text. So those are some little jewels that you should be picking up as you are reading the chapters in your textbook that are assigned. I am not going to quiz you over every chapter. I don't want to work you to death in 8 weeks, but I do want you to be responsible for the information that I assign. So while I don't have a quiz saying you should call your author by his or her last name, I want you to apply that information when it comes to writing. So make sure you're reading your text, marking it up, using it as a good tool that it is. And I'm looking for my book right now because I thought I laid it out to be able to show you something in it, but it's escaped me. At any rate, make sure you are using that book as a good tool for yourself, making notes on it. Now, if you can't write in your book because you have to sell it back at the end of the semester, I encourage you to use Post-it notes. Stick those Post-it notes inside there and write on them if you can't highlight or underline and take notes in the margin, okay? I also want you to be familiar with the basic features of literary analysis, and there is a video for you to watch on how all of that works. Now, I hope that you are familiar with the book Lord of the Flies by William Golding. It's a great, great novel, and we see aspects of that novel repeat itself throughout history in a variety of ways, unfortunately. Now, if you're not familiar with that book, that's okay. You can still get the idea of what she's talking about and how to analyze a work by watching that video. All right, and then Journal 3 will wrap up our week on Sunday, and that one you can choose to use either the lottery or everyday use, and you're using the cultural or gender approach. Okay, now a couple of last things before I run out of time on my video. Make sure that you look at the feedback that you get on your assignments. So if you go into your My Grades link, which I can't actually click on because I'm just in as a preview user, and I don't want to show everyone's grades to everyone in the class through the video. But from our menu, if you go to the My Grades link, then you will see your list of assignments. On the other side, you'll see little scores, or maybe there will be a little dialogue bubble beside the score. So you want to click on the little dialogue bubble when you see it, because that gives an overall comment on the assignment. So it might say, good job, well done, or it might say, make sure that you follow the prompt because I don't see that you've answered it fully here, or that kind of thing. It'll give you an overview. Now, if you want to see if it's a paper that you've attached, like the character diagram, I'm not quite finished grading those yet, but make sure you look when those are graded. You will click on the title of the assignment and it'll open up your original, and you'll see comments and notes on your paper. So make sure that you look at feedback that you get on assignments so that you don't continue to miss points on the same things. Like, for example, if you do a discussion forum again this week and you don't reply to at least 2 people, I've already warned you about that. So more points will start chipping away for your not responding to others if you're not taking that into consideration. Okay. Also, don't forget you can click around in here. In Course Tools, there is a folder called Student Resources that is a great help to you. The standard format instruction like double spacing, Times New Roman, etc., all of that is in there. And then you can also click on Learning Guides for Success, and it'll give you a list of things. Like if these literary devices are tough, you've really not worked with that before, there are a couple of different videos or links in here for you to watch or read, how to avoid plagiarism and all of that. That's all in there. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can do that through the Cowley email or just sending deborah.layton@cowley.u an email, and I'll get back to you pretty quickly. Have a wonderful week and good luck.